I was kicked out of my house on Christmas Eve by my own mother. She didn't even look at me when she said it, just kept sipping from her wine glass, eyes glued to the Hallmark movie playing in the background. "You're too old to be living here anyway," she muttered, as if she hadn't begged me to move back home after my divorce. As if I hadn't paid the mortgage for the past 6 months, while she and my father cruised around the Caribbean on money they didn't earn. I stood there in the doorway, suitcase in one hand, pie in the other. Yes, I brought a pie because I was still trying. Still pretending that if I baked the right dessert or said the right thing, maybe they'd love me like they loved her. My sister, Lila, the princess, the miracle baby, the girl who got a pink bike, a party with ponies, and the spotlight on my 12th birthday while I washed dishes, because I was grown up now. She's 5 years younger than me, 5 lifetimes more adored. She crashed her car at 19. They bought her a new one the next week. I landed a full scholarship and graduated summa cum laude. They said, "That's great, sweetie," and asked if I could co-sign Lila's student loans. She dropped out. Twice. And yet, somehow, I was always the burden. I didn't have anywhere to go that Christmas Eve. My apartment was gone sold to cover a medical debt I hadn't even told them about, because God forbid I bring the mood down. I sat in my car for 3 hours, parked at the end of our cul-de-sac, watching their house glow with warmth I had never felt. Then I drove to a motel and cried until morning. The worst part? I still went back the next day, because Lila had texted me a photo of the dog wearing a Santa hat and said, "He misses you." She didn't. By New Year's, I was back to working overtime and wiring money into their account to help with bills that somehow always included salon appointments and gift cards for Lila. I told myself it was temporary, that one day they'd see. That day never came. Instead, 2 summers ago, I found out they threw a party, a massive one. It was Lila's baby shower, the first grandchild. The event of the decade, apparently. 100 people, balloons, a custom cake shaped like a castle. And me? Not invited, not even told. I found out because a college friend tagged me in a photo from the party. She thought I was there. I called my mother. She said, "Oh, we didn't think you'd want to come. Why?" "Well, you're not exactly a baby person, are you?" I laughed. That ugly, dry laugh that comes out when you know something inside you just broke. I had crocheted Lila a baby blanket, a pink and white one. I'd sent it to her 2 weeks before the shower. No one mentioned it, not once. That night, I packed every photo, every gift, every card I had ever received from them and put it in a box. I labeled it Delusions and stuck it in the back of my closet. I stopped calling, stopped answering. They didn't notice at first. Lila was busy being a mom, and my parents were busy pretending they had raised a perfect family. I was the ghost in their gallery, always in the background of their stories, never the subject. But ghosts don't stay quiet forever. 6 months ago, I got a letter from the city about a zoning request. I work in real estate now. I know all the permits, all the loopholes. Their neighborhood was up for redevelopment. And their house? It was in the center. So I put in a bid, quietly, anonymously, and I won. The house I was kicked out of on Christmas Eve was now mine. Not to live in. No, that chapter is over. But soon, it'll be the site of a brand new assisted living facility. A clean, safe, and honestly gorgeous space for people who deserve to be cared for. There will be a waiting list, a long one. And when my parents apply, because they will, they're not rich. They're not getting younger. And they'll need help. They'll be told the list is full. Because for once in my life, I put myself first. And it felt like finally blowing out my own birthday candles. They didn't notice my silence at first. Not for weeks, maybe even months, which says a lot, doesn't it? You can go mute on your own family and they don't even feel the difference. I stopped replying to texts, stopped liking their Facebook posts, stopped sending Lila little things just because. I became a ghost, except this time, it was on purpose. They only noticed when the money stopped. I used to send it automatically. A couple hundred here, a surprise Zelle there, groceries covered when the card declined by mistake. But then I shut it off, quietly, like turning off a faucet. And that's when the call started. "Sweetie, is everything okay?" Mom's voice on the first voicemail was syrupy sweet, all faux concern. "Just checking in." The second one was sharper. You know your father's blood pressure's been high again. Stress isn't good for him. By the fifth call, it was full-blown emotional warfare. Lila said you've been acting distant. She's really hurt. I just don't know what we did to deserve this kind of treatment. I didn't respond. Not once. Because the truth was, nothing had changed, except me. I wasn't angrier. I was just done. And that scared them. I started catching wind of things passive-aggressive updates from distant cousins. Mutual friends calling to see how I was. My mother told people I was going through something. Lila hinted I might be jealous of her new life as a mother. That one made me laugh. Jealous? Of what? The leaky apartment she couldn't afford without my parents? The boyfriend who still hadn't proposed after 2 kids in 4 years? The baby shower throne she sat on, surrounded by people who forgot I even existed? No, I wasn't jealous. I was awake. It's funny what you start to see when you stop squinting for affection. Like how every family photo on their mantle is of Lila and her kids now, none of me. Not even from when I was a child. Or how they forgot to mention that Dad had surgery last fall. I found out from a neighbor. They said, "Oh, I figured you'd be here already." I hadn't even been told. I started keeping notes. Dates, messages, receipts. Not because I planned anything yet, but because I wanted to stop gaslighting myself. I wanted proof that I wasn't too sensitive or ungrateful or imagining things. I also started therapy again, weekly, religiously. And let me tell you, nothing will terrify a toxic family faster than you getting mentally healthy without them. I began to reclaim things, piece by piece. My Sundays, my budget, my birthday, which I celebrated alone this year with a massage, a slice of red velvet, and absolutely no guilt. For once, I didn't wake up dreading what card they'd forget to send or what sarcastic jab I'd have to smile through. I started going for walks again. Joined a group for women dealing with toxic family patterns. You'd be amazed how many of us there are. Invisible daughters, emotional sponges, givers turned ghosts. Meanwhile, the texts from home kept coming. Lila, are you mad at me or something? Mom, I told Aunt Carol you were traveling. Hope that's okay. Dad, after months of silence, need to talk. Family meeting. Call us. A family meeting. As if I was an employee who'd missed too many shifts. As if I'd clocked in late to the emotional labor factory and needed a warning. I didn't call. I didn't even text back. Instead, I bought myself a new desk. Nothing fancy, just clean, white, and mine. I put it in the corner of my studio apartment and began drafting the biggest project of my career, a redevelopment pitch. For the block I grew up on, it wasn't revenge. Not yet. But it was the first time in my life I built something with me at the center. And damn, it felt good. I didn't go looking for it, the truth I mean. I wasn't snooping or plotting. I was just organizing old files on a quiet Sunday, drinking iced coffee, wearing pajama pants that hadn't seen daylight in months. It started with a scanned utility bill I found in my email one I'd paid for their house during the pandemic. No big deal, just a flash of memory. Then I opened a shared Google Drive folder I hadn't touched in years. I don't even remember why we made it, probably to plan one of Lila's dozen birthday extravaganzas. But there it was, a folder labeled House Docs. I clicked, and then I stopped breathing. There were loan statements, property taxes, legal records, my name, not just mentioned signed. I had co-signed a second mortgage with them 10 years ago. Only, I didn't remember doing that. I spent the next 2 hours digging through PDFs, comparing dates, calling the bank's fraud line. And the thing is, it wasn't fraud. Not technically. I had signed the paperwork. But it was during a Christmas visit when I was still reeling from my divorce. They told me it was just a refinancing thing. No big deal, sweetheart. Just to get a better rate. I signed it between pouring eggnog and setting the table. The debt was in both our names, and they had defaulted on it. Twice. Which meant my credit, my hard-won, squeaky clean, debt-free credit was trashed. Quietly. While I paid rent on time. While I helped cover their groceries. While I loaned Lila money for emergencies. They were destroying me behind the scenes. I had to get up and walk around the block. My hands were shaking. I felt like I'd swallowed a fistful of bees. This wasn't just neglect. This wasn't forgetfulness or favoritism, or even being left off a party guest list. This was betrayal. Cold, calculated betrayal. They didn't forget me. They used me and then pretended I was the disappointment. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just stared at the sidewalk until I felt something shift. Like something old inside me cracked wide open, and all the pretending poured out. I called my cousin Jamie. We weren't close, hadn't really talked since Grandma's funeral. But she always had a mouth on her and a memory like a vault. And she was the only one in the family who had once whispered, "They treat you like a damn debit card." She picked up on the second ring. "Holy she said after I explained. I knew something was off. You know they did the same thing to Uncle Mike, right? With his retirement fund? No, I didn't know. But I knew now. Jamie was in. All in. She'd always wanted to be a lawyer, but instead became a paralegal and part-time bartender because her parents didn't believe in law school debt for girls. She started pulling records for me, showed me how to request financial disclosures, walked me through options. We made a plan. I stopped hoping for apologies. I started collecting evidence. Jamie helped me write a formal complaint to the credit bureau. I got a lawyer, one of her friends, who nearly choked on his coffee when he saw the forged consent to debt clause. There was enough there to raise flags, if not full-on lawsuits. We sent warning letters. They didn't respond. But the fear showed up in other ways. Suddenly, I was being called again, daily. Lila left me 5 voicemails in a row one night. "I don't know what's going on, but Mom's freaking out. Please don't do something crazy, okay?" Crazy. That's what they call it when you stop bleeding for people who stabbed you. Meanwhile, my development project for the neighborhood was gaining traction. Investors were interested. A few homeowners had already taken the buyouts, except mine, the old house. My parents hadn't sold, not yet, but they would. They'd have to. And when they did, I'd be waiting with documents, receipts, and the deed that would finally be in my name. Not because I needed it, because they never thought I could have it. The email came on a Tuesday. Just 2 lines from my lawyer. "The property sale has closed. Transfer complete. You own the house." I stared at those words for a full minute, heart pounding. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. Just quiet. Focused. Like someone who'd trained for years to run a marathon, and now the race was over, but their legs kept moving anyway. That night, I drove by the old house. The porch light was still on. My mother's ceramic angel still hung by the door. The oak tree I used to sit under as a kid swayed like it didn't know anything had changed, but everything had. The next day, I sent the formal notice, 90 days to vacate. Standard for the sale. Nothing emotional, just business. They didn't take it well. First came the denial. Lila texted me, "This has to be a mistake. Mom said some developer bought the block?" I didn't respond. Then came the rage. My father called screaming voicemails I didn't listen to, just forwarded to my lawyer. My mother sent an email, her version of diplomacy. "We raised you in that home. You can't do this." I raised myself in that home. Let's be honest. Then came the guilt. Lila showed up at my apartment. I didn't even know how she found the address. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, holding a Starbucks she probably thought would soften the blow. "I just want to talk," she said. I let her in. For 5 minutes, she tried, really tried. Asked how I was, said she missed me, said she was sorry, sort of. "We didn't know you felt like this." "If we had known, you did know," I cut in. "You always knew." She flinched, and I laid it out. The loans, the default, the erasure, the fact that they had used my name, my credit, my heart, and still talked about me like I was a cautionary tale at family gatherings. "You want forgiveness?" I asked. "Then start with honesty. Admit what you did, admit what they did." She said nothing. So I stood up, opened the door, and said, "You've got 89 days. I'd start packing. Word spread fast. Within a week, my parents were in full-blown panic mode. They offered to buy the house back. I declined. They asked for an extension. I declined that too. Then came the public spectacle. Family friends called me heartless. An aunt posted some cryptic Facebook rant about modern women forgetting where they came from. Lila's boyfriend messaged me a string of profanities. My mother had the audacity to mail me a framed picture of the house taken back, when it still had a white picket fence and a rose bush I used to trim. I sent it back with a sticky note that said, "Keep your memories. I'm building something real." And I was. Construction started a month later. I stood on that same front lawn in a hard hat and heels, talking to a team of investors while my parents peeked from behind their curtains. We were building a modern assisted living facility, 46 units, memory care, social spaces, state-of-the-art everything. It wasn't petty, it was necessary. This country doesn't take care of its elders, I do, but not them. A few weeks after the demolition, Lila called. "One last try. They need help, you know," she said. "They're not well. They don't have options." "They had options," I replied. "They had me. And they spent 30 years pretending I wasn't enough. Now they'll see what enough really looks like," she cried. I didn't. 3 months later, my mother submitted an application for the new facility. Her name landed in my inbox like a paper ghost. I didn't delete it. I didn't even reply. I just moved it to a folder called Closure. Then I went to work. I didn't go to the groundbreaking ceremony. The mayor was there. The local paper sent a photographer. There were speeches, banners, even a balloon arch. Lila would have loved that part. I watched the live stream for 10 minutes before closing the window and turning my phone on silent. I was on a train that day. Quiet car, head against the window. Somewhere along the Hudson, heading north to a cabin I'd rented for the weekend. Alone. And for the first time in my entire life, alone didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like sanctuary. The facility opened 6 months later. It's called Silver Oak Haven. I didn't name it. That was our project manager's doing, but it fits. There are real oak trees on the back lot. The ones that stayed rooted even after the demolition. I like to think that's a metaphor. There's a wait list now. A long one. Lila emailed again this time, not asking for anything. Just saying she saw the article about the center. Said it looks beautiful. That mom would love it there. That maybe this can be a new beginning. No apology. Just nostalgia wrapped in pleasantries. I didn't respond. Because here's what I know now. Not everything broken gets mended. And not everyone who misses you deserves to find you again. My therapist calls it earned peace. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Peace. The kind you dig for with your bare hands, one hard boundary at a time. And you know what? I'm good with that. My life now? It's mine. Fully. I have my own place, nothing fancy, but it smells like lavender and I keep the good snacks where no one judges me for it. I celebrate my birthday alone sometimes. Other years, I host a few friends and we light sparklers and toast to the ones who raised themselves. I started writing again. Nothing big, just little essays. Memories, mostly. Some sweet, some sharp. I sent one to a magazine and they published it. The title? The Year I Stopped Setting the Table for People Who Let Me Starve. The emails I got from readers? Thousands. Women like me, who were told to smile through silence, who braided their own hair for school picture day while their siblings got chauffeured to soccer practice, who kept trying and trying, until one day they didn't. Turns out we're not as rare as they made us feel. Last month, I passed by Silver Oak Haven on my way to brunch. There was a woman sitting on one of the benches out front, reading to her husband in a wheelchair. Their hands were clasped like it was the only thing holding time together. I smiled, because that's the kind of love I built space for. Quiet, deliberate, unentitled love. And no, my parents aren't there. They called the office. Twice. Tried to speak to the manager. Left messages. I instructed the staff to stay professional, polite, and firm. There are no vacancies at this time. That's not revenge. That's a boundary. And boundaries, I've learned, are the purest form of self-love. Sometimes I still think about that 12th birthday. How Lila wore the princess crown, and I scraped frosting off plates and tried not to cry. How I blew out my imaginary candles in the kitchen sink and wished stupidly that next year might be different. I don't wish for that anymore, because I finally made different happen. They said I was heartless, but for once, I put my heart first. Story 2. Following the settlement of their $180,000 debt. I didn't receive an Easter invitation. We feel impoverished because of you. Mom sent Dad a text. Without saying a word, I sent my bank statement. Then all of them were banned. My sister was yelling 20 minutes later. My father called. At that point, I took things a step further. Do you know what's wrong with you? Halfway through her second glass of wine, my sister commented, "Do you believe that wealth creates family?" I blinked as I glanced at her, unable to determine whether this was meant to be a joke. No, it wasn't. Not even looking up from her phone did my mom. She said, "Don't be dramatic, Erin. Easter is here. Let's avoid making you feel bad." 2 days prior to Easter Sunday, it was April 13. With my phone in hand, I sat by myself at my kitchen counter. This is the third time I've read the family group chat where everyone confirmed the Easter brunch. At precisely 11 a.m., everyone save me brought anything to my parents' place. I was not invited. There had been silence. Not a message, no phone call, no. "Will you be visiting this year?" Pretending that I was missed isn't even a lie. Nothing but quiet. And if it weren't for my cousin Madison, the first wouldn't have known. Bless her large lips and kind heart, who accidentally texted me, "Will you be returning with the spinach pie?" Aunt Lydia expressed her hope that you will. She texted me instead of my sister, as she intended. The one who wasn't even invited. I didn't respond. I simply go back and go over the danger. There they were, picture after picture of colorful napkins, recipes for quiche, and my mother talking about how the family was at last whole again. Complete means without me. And I sensed it at that moment. Nor rage, nor the typical sting. Only this crisp, icy clarity, similar to what you get just before a free fall. As you can see, I settled all of their debts 6 months prior. $180,000, Emily's graduate school loans, medical expenses, and mortgage arrears. My dad still referred to it as a misunderstanding because she never even paid off his IRS bill. Everything is gone. While most people would have been devastated by the blow to my money account, I had prepared for it. I had foregone weekends, vacations, and years of saving. I didn't do anything to express gratitude. I didn't anticipate being wiped, though. Then the text arrived. My mother said this when I gently questioned her about why no one had considered include me. "We feel impoverished because of you." That was it. No emoticons. There is no punctuation. Simply because you make us feel inadequate. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. I grabbed a clear snapshot of the transfer records after opening my banking app. All of my payments throughout the past year, including the $600 Stargate card and the $42 home loan. Emily submitted it to the group chat but never paid. My dad called me 5 minutes later, and my phone buzzed. I turned it down. My sister then began texting. "Just what did you do? Pick up the phone." "Avoid doing this here. Unblock, please, Mom." "Lastly, you're destroying everything." I wasn't finished, though. Not quite yet. Because they had no idea how far I was going to go, and they never saw it coming. 3 days passed in quiet. Dad then shattered it. He just sent one email. Subject line: "Be sensible." No salutation, no expression of regret, no sign of comprehension, just, "We didn't intend to leave you out." In actuality, though, your attitude has been challenging lately. Easter ought to be a time of celebration. Do you have that strain in your eyes when you arrive up? That isn't happy. Don't exaggerate the situation. A cheesecake recipe in PDF format is attached, as though I would return by baking something. Something broke inside of me, and it wasn't the healing sort, even after I erased it. I began to take out receipts, literal ones. Every penny, every transfer, every Venmo for Mom's emergency dental care, Dad's breaks, and Emily's copay. For $180.68, I created a spreadsheet with the title Every Row. The $13,500 loan was Emily's last chance before collections. The 2021 tax lien of Dad. Mom's overdraft of $600 after purchasing a new mattress for Emily. Then it dawned on me. On Easter, they remembered me. Unless anything broke, they never remembered me. I was a living contingency plan, a compassionate location where they may deposit their own ATM. I was also worn out. However, they weren't. On the same day, Emily shared a carousel on Instagram. She captioned the photo, "I'm so thankful for the people who never make me feel like I owe them anything," while wearing a sundress and carrying a mimosa. They were all at brunch in the final picture. As if it were the grandchild, Emily's puppy was held by her dad and his dumb salmon polo mum. Never once did I show them a picture of a house that was just like mine. There was no caption, but it was obvious what it meant. No caption. A picture that was a perfect match for my house. No caption. The connotation, however, was obvious. I saw then that this was more than simply a financial issue. Control was at issue here. I sent Emily a straightforward text. "My house was uploaded by you. She didn't respond after reading it. I received a parcel at my door 2 hours later. No return address or name is included. A photo of my family in a frame. Father, mother, Emily. During Christmas of the previous year. It didn't include me. The picture wasn't taken by me. During the week following the illness, I was in the hospital recuperating in quiet as they shared pictures of their lucky family with eggnog. A letter was affixed on the back of the frame. This is the appearance of tranquility. I looked at my credit report that evening. 3 tough questions that I didn't approve. 2 of the private lenders were from the same city, and 1 was for a car loan. My parents reside there. I phoned the bank to find out if any recent financial applications had utilized my personal information without my consent. The female caller fell silent. At last, she responded, "Yes. In fact, there is now 1 pending." I went cold. She perused the application. My father, Robert Cartwright, identified me as a cosigner on his application 2 days earlier. Used a lease document from years ago that I had supplied him as evidence of residency. It was at that point that I stopped assuming the worst. I gave him a call. He didn't respond. I then gave my mother a call. She did. How come he would do that? I inquired. She remained silent for a little too long. We then assumed you wouldn't mind. We assumed you wouldn't object. She phrased it as if asking for a drink of water would be equivalent to hijacking my identity, which made me laugh, not because it was humorous. I advised her to withdraw the application right away. What did she say? Perhaps we wouldn't have to speculate about your reaction if you weren't so aloof. I realized then that they would never stop. I thus modified the guidelines. The next day, I made a fresh email. I have not yet sent anything from it. Just be ready. I then made backups of all my financial records. Screenshots, quotes, and even audio recordings, such as the one from Emily's sobbing call at 2 a.m. last summer. Because I sent her $850 in 5 minutes when her car broke down in the middle of nowhere. The clip is still with me. The only one I can rely on is you. I promised to repay you. She didn't. I dug deeper. My laptop's old hard disk was discovered. Emily returned the one she had borrowed 3 years prior, cleaned. However, before she took it, I mirrored it. I opened it in her notes app and saw screenshots of her email drafts. Fake tales of sobbing. In the past, she would guilt ex-boyfriends. Things to say if Aaron brings up money is the title of one file. My name, bullet pointed. You always mention money as if it improves you. You weren't asked to pay. It's obvious that you need therapy, not family. Then the real hit. A video shot 2 years ago during Christmas. As they all opened presents, I was cleaning up in the kitchen. Emily is filming, whispering. Look at Saint Aaron, always working, never invited. Laughter in the background. My mother's voice. She likes being the helper. Don't ruin it. My vision blurred. Not from tears, from rage. That night I created a folder, proof of everything. I filled it with PDFs, audio, images, even transcriptions. Then I zipped it and saved it to a drive labeled, in case they try again. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, I got a text from Emily. Hey, can you send $300 for dog daycare? We're going away this weekend. As if nothing had happened. No apology, no acknowledgement. Like the only glitch was that I stopped paying on time. I didn't respond. She sent another. You're seriously going to ghost the people who raised you? Then Mom joined in. Emily stressed. The least you could do is help her. Then finally, Dad let it go already? You've done your part. No one's asking you to save us. That's when I sent it. The bank statement, clean cropped $180,543.27. Paid out in total since 2019. No words, just numbers. And that's when my phone started ringing. Emily, then Dad again. FaceTime this time. Then came the Facebook messages, the DMs from random chance. The screenshot my coworker sent me of a Facebook post from Mom. Some people think money makes them better than others. Easter is about real love, not transactions. Below it, a photo of the brunch caption. We chose peace this year. I chose silence, but peace. They hadn't even seen what was coming because I wasn't just cutting them off. I was going to dismantle the story they built around me. And when all fell apart, when the mask dropped, they would finally see I was never the problem. I was just the one who stopped pretending everything was fine. They didn't know I was coming, and that was the point. When my sister texted my previous landlord 2 days before Easter to inquire if that girl with the ponytail still lives in Aaron's building, I knew they believed I'd disappear again. Stay silent. Stay out of the path, just as I always had. But this time, I wasn't bringing dessert. I was bringing proof, and I wasn't coming alone. The brunch was set at 11 a.m. I arrived there at 10:57, parked up to the curb outside their suburban house, the one I had been paying the mortgage on for 3.5 years, and simply sat for a second. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. I was calm since today wasn't about fury. It was about reckoning. When I walked up the driveway, I could hear them inside. Laughter plates, shivering glasses, a gathering, a party. Once again, without me. When the door opened and my mother's face fell like a terrible hand of cards, I rang the bell. She remained silent. She simply moved out of the way. The interior of the house resembled something from Pinterest. White flowers, Easter eggs, and dresses that match. Half drunk on champagne and wearing a flowery dress, Emily froze with her fork in midair. "Well," said Dad, standing at the head of the table. "Like a bad guy in a low-budget drama, that is." "You were not invited," he stated it simply. I grinned. "I am aware." After then, I took an envelope out of my backpack. I put it on the table and added, "Since we're being honest." Before the quiche gets cold inside, you might want to read this. A thorough audit. I provided them PDFs for each dollar I ever sent. Screenshots of Emily requesting money for her nails from the dog daycare. Bank records demonstrating how Mom used food money to fuel her HSN addiction. And above all, the bank letter. The one verifying that the mortgage was never refinanced, contrary to what Dad said. 3 years ago, when he defaulted and pleaded with me to cover it for the time being, it was secretly moved to my name. As I watched them all read, I saw my father's face turn as white as paper, Emily's fingers quiver, and my mother mouth the words as if they were poison. I said, "That's not all." I took my phone out and hit play on a voice memo. The room echoed with Emily's voice. "We'll simply pretend she volunteered if she finds out." Eventually, Aaron always gives in. Next, Dad's voice. "She is too tender to go." As before, "Just murdered her." And lastly, my mom. "Remind her of who covered her college expenses if she begins to misbehave. The fact that it is a falsehood is irrelevant." She refuses to check. Quiet, dense, unforgiving, actual. I turned to face my sister. "You want to let them know about the phony messages you created using your Notes app, in which you altered my texts to give the impression that I was threatening you." Emily remained silent. I took a flash drive out of my pocket and threw it on the table. "It has everything," I said. "Files from Photoshop, edits.metadata. The process. Copies are with my lawyer. If she checks her inbox, so does yours." Suddenly, my dad sprang up and clenched his fist. "Do you believe this to be proof? Do you believe that people are interested? You're simply resentful." "No," I responded coolly. "I just finished." Then Emily's ex-boyfriend Morgan entered via the front door. It was the violent one she told everyone. Poisonous, infatuated. I defended the one she stated because I detested seeing her pleased. He had a folder in his hand, dense, tabbed, numbered. He nodded to the room and added, "Nice house. Too bad it's all based on falsehoods." Setting the folder aside, he opened it. Screenshots of Emily's previous voice conversations, in which she practiced theatrical retellings of prior disagreements, and pictures from evenings she subsequently misrepresented to others, were among the contradictions found therein. When my dad lunges forward, I move to the side. I said, "You touch him." This also applies to all media outlets from here to Washington, D.C. Do you believe that he was ruined? Hold off until the appropriate people are notified, and they won't overlook it, I promise. My mom took a firm seat. Desperate. Emily turned to Morgan. "It's beyond your comprehension." "Yes, I do," he interrupted her. "I'm not going to overlook this because of this." He gave me a look. "Are you prepared?" More than before. Emily's scream reached my ears as I was leaving the house. Not a sentence, not a word. A guttural sound of panic, that's all. Like someone whose authority had been taken away in the middle of a sentence. my dad yelled as he attempted to follow. Everyone's situation is getting worse because of you. No, I said, turning around. I'm just turning on the lights. Then I permanently left. They awaited the detonation. They anticipated fireworks. They assumed I would use the internet, let everything out, use a viral thread to destroy them. Because you do that now, don't you? However, I didn't. I didn't publish anything. I didn't post a tweet. I didn't record a sob tale with a weak voice and hashtags like family, betrayal, and hashtag. I simply became silent, and they were devastated by that. My dad texted me on the Monday after Easter. You won't get away with this. Then 2 hours later, we need to discuss. Then, through tears, I heard my mother's voicemail. Don't do anything dramatic, please. Emily feels overburdened. They are stating that. However, I had already done the one thing they were really afraid of, so I hadn't even begun. The unauthorized paperwork filed under my name in 2018 was discreetly and legally reversed with the assistance of a very skilled lawyer. I also closed all doors, froze the mortgage, reported the unauthorized application that used my name, and stopped all auto payments. I no longer own the house. Emily drives a repossessed automobile in order to preserve it. By the week's conclusion, the Veterans Program Small Business Grant application, it has been marked for review. The icing on the cake, an official document disowning them, was enclosed in a single envelope of certified mail that came at their door on Friday morning. No showmanship, no threats, a simple legal breach. One handwritten letter too. Even though you have all you needed, you decided to take extra that weekend. It took me 3 hours to drive north. Just a coastline, no goal. Simply be silent. I rented a lodge without a TV or Wi-Fi. It was just myself, a notepad, and a prepaid phone number that only I knew. I learned early on from my former employer that yelling louder isn't the key to survive. Knowing when to disappear is key. I stayed there for 3 days without telling anybody or checking my messages. Social media simply existed, not being helpful, not being accountable, not acting guilty. Heaven was there. The inbox was filled when I returned. A message from a cousin who lives far away. You're in rehab, they say. One of the girls I dated once DM'd me. Tonight, your sister will go live in order to cleanse her name. Just so you know, my father left me a voicemail. Out of breath. Enraged. Do you consider yourself clean? You don't find this offensive until you've made this family feel ashamed? Individuals converse. We needed to share something with them. The worst thing I did caused them to spiral. I didn't answer. No counter-arguments, no explanations, no defense. I saw them swing at shadows and throw blows in the dark. Emily tweeted something mysterious. It's funny how those who are guilty of it vanish, one of her buddies responded. However, did your brother not cover your tuition? Then another response. Hold on, didn't he also pay your rent? Then a pause, followed by deletion. After that, her whole profile was made private. A letter reached my new address 2 weeks later. I recognized the handwriting within, but there was no return name. This is not where we intended things to go. All of this would not have occurred if you had simply behaved normally, traditional. No possession. The cursive is wobbly and the blame is at the bottom. Mom, love. I burnt it slowly, page per page. Then I took the one unexpected action. Quietly, I created a new life. A little fixer-upper, huh? An hour away from the city. Money. No co-signers. Not a witness. Painted sage green on the walls. Shelves were hung. Took a dog from a shelter and adopted it. A mutt with 3 legs and an ear scar. And the kindest person I had ever encountered. I gave her the name Balance. Returned to work. This time, a new business. More flexibility, fewer clients. I told them I didn't want to be in charge. Only projects. Just tranquility. No forwarding address from family. No strings, no emergency contacts. What's the best part? No one I knew had any explanation. To feel less guilty, they can say whatever they want and create whatever version of me they need. Inform their small circles that I'm angry or lost. Permit them. Allow them to scream into a hole they created for themselves. Because this is the reality. To obtain justice, you don't have to go viral. To be free, you don't need 1 million likes. Sometimes leaving without saying anything and never returning is the most effective thing you can do. I used to believe that I was the issue. Not thankful enough, not loud enough, not forgiving enough. I always questioned what I had done wrong when they lied to me. Each time they excluded me, I accused myself of being difficult to love. I told myself I gave too much each time they exploited me. But now I see it. It wasn't difficult to adore me. I was simply simple to utilize. 5 months have passed. No voicemails, no messages, and no phony excuses cloaked in Christian guilt. I barred all known contacts, including family friends who used to inquire about my well-being, changed my phone number, and filed a mail forwarding stop. And the quiet. It tastes good. I began my morning with a coffee interview. Don't call in an emergency, Dad. 5 minutes before rent. Don't send desperate can you help texts. Simply be silent. I'm typing on my patio as my dog snores beneath the table. There are still living plants. When I lived in anarchy, I was never able to handle this. When I want to, I see people. I only give when I feel like it. And unless I want them to, nobody knows where I reside. I received a letter last week, written by hand. No address for return. There was a picture of the 3 of them inside. Emily, Mom and Dad are out in front of the old house. It was disintegrating. Scrawled pen, lifeless shutters, paint-peeling grass, and half-hung shattered promises on the rear. Family always makes a return. On the terrace, I burnt it in a pottery bowl. Observe how it turns into ash. After that, I poured a glass of wine for myself and made the last adjustment I had been putting off until now. I took out a matte black Loctite box and opened it to reveal an etched single metal sign. Not on Instagram. Not for influence. Only for me. I grabbed a screwdriver, went outside, and inserted it into my house's wooden gate. Emergency situations are not permitted below, with smaller letters. This is no longer your escape strategy. Allow them to share their tales. In their own echo chamber, let them yell. Allow them to dwell in the quiet they created. The one I ultimately decided to abandon. I'm not the person who abandoned the family. I was supposed to grin as I drowned because they made it into a lending office. I'm free now. And they're right where they should be. Without me, together. Story 3. Before the family gathering, my sister smirked as she stood in my $850. Oh, house. This is my wedding present, as promised by Dad. You really think this is your place? She said. I spent $760,000 for it, and my dad laughed. He went on, You don't belong here. I remained silent, simply took out the deed and sent them an SMS. Do you truly believe that this is your home? Emma spoke as if she already owned the house, her voice resonating off the tall ceilings. Now she stood barefoot in my living room. Like she was measuring square footage before sealing the sale, heels kicked off near the fireplace. As a wedding present, Dad promised me this house. She turned and gave me a trespassing look. The bottle of red was still in my hand, the one I purchased for what I believed to be our upcoming family reunion. My fingers clenched around its neck. I hadn't even greeted him. Then Dad entered, glanced at Emma and then at me, and then went by me as if I didn't exist. He responded, You brought money. However, you have no place here. That was it. No embrace. It's not pleasant to see you. I had invested $760,000 in this home over the previous 10 years, and it was just a casual erasure. My entire life savings, 10 years of harsh freelance work, 2 tasks at once. No safety net, no vacations. They pretended to have caught me squatting as they were standing in my kitchen. I said nothing at all. I just went to the drawer beside the stove, took out a transparent sleeve that contained a single crisp paper and set it on the island. Dad took a quick, somewhat squinting look at it. He wiggled his jaw. It was the action. After that, I pulled out my phone. Be calm. Not a drama. I just wrote one message months ago. I knew I may have to use it sometime, but not because I expected to. Family conversation. It has been sold. Quiet. Emma's face was exhausted. She stopped grinning. She glanced back at the fireplace and around the room. The view of the canyon. The flooring are made of hardwood, similar to how someone looks at something they're sure they'll never touch again. You're telling lies. Her voice broke. I didn't answer. She was unaware that yesterday the documents had been signed. Approximately 2 hours prior to their arrival, the funds had already reached the escrow closure. However, the home was never the focus. Not at all. It had to do with the belief that I would always be the child who could step over, regardless of how much I paid or how far I went. Okay, no more. And I wasn't upset when the door eventually shut behind them. Since this was not the end, I felt liberated. This was the beginning, and they didn't know what was going to happen. The worst aspect, I wanted to think that was not how they meant it, even after that kitchen encounter. Emma is smug, Dad. Silence me, please. Even yet, I convinced myself that perhaps there had been a mistake. Perhaps they were under stress. The problem with family, though, is that you start when someone reveals themselves to you. Wanted to think that wasn't how they meant it. Even after that kitchen encounter, Emma is smug, Dad. Silence me, please. Even yet, I convinced myself that perhaps there had been a mistake. Perhaps they were under stress. The problem with family, though, is that you start when someone reveals themselves to you. Story 4, my brother grinned and added, thanks for the money, but nobody wants a janitor in the wedding photos. I gave a nod. I canceled the catering I had paid for when I got home. After that, I packed my bags, went on vacation, and laughed. After a day, my phone exploded. My brother shouted it clearly and loudly while I was still standing in the reception tent's corner. He smiled as if it were the last line of a joke he had been wanting to tell all night. Lifting his glass of champagne at me, Aiden Allen yelled, I really appreciate you taking care of the meals and everything, dude. A true hero's move. People look in my direction. I grinned. Uncomfortable, he continued, however, stopping for dramatic effect. Let's be truthful. A janitor in the wedding pictures is something no one wants. Quiet, then clumsy laughs. His best friend laughed. Emma, his bride, covered her face with her wine glass. A couple of relatives examined their footwear. Alan's colleague turned away after giving me a pathetic look. I simply stood there wearing my blue uniform shirt and work boots. My sleeves still have the little smell of bleach on them. I chuckled. Only once. A little exhalation via the nose. You're correct, I said after that. That was all. No drink was thrown by me. I didn't shout. Unlike in a movie, I didn't just barge out. As if nothing had occurred, I just turned back, grinned at my younger brother, and strolled off the lawn and into the parking lot. But inside, something within separated neatly and silently. The manner that a deep cut is not felt until the blood is seen. I spent a lot of time sitting in my car and watching people dance through the windows of the reception hall. In contrast to the fairy lights, they seemed like shadows. I took out my phone and accessed the catering confirmation that I had paid for some weeks prior. $93.24.77. If canceled within 24 hours, there is no reimbursement. I arrived barely in time. After selecting cancel, I purchased a one-way ticket to Costa Rica. A janitor in the wedding pictures is something no one wants. All right, let's see how people react to pictures of weddings without food on the tables. I appreciate the money. However, nobody wants to see a janitor in the wedding pictures. It wasn't merely a painful sentence. Everything I hadn't been able to notice for the past 8 years was exploded. Allow me to explain. My younger brother is Alan. The lovely one was always the enjoyable one. The child who got by with a skewed smile and justifications like I'm working it out while others cleaned up the pieces. Usually me? I never attended college. Alan was changing majors like socks, so I cleaned them. To assist Mom and Dad with paying our tuition, I was dragging a mop around the corridors of the dorms. He left after 3 semesters. I don't want to go to college, he added. However, thank you, my friend. You're saving lives. That was his go-to line. When he and Emma moved in together, I assisted him in obtaining his first apartment, paid his past due utilities, and covered the deposit. He remarked, "You're the only one I trust with the wedding aid." After they became engaged, "Can you assist us in making it happen?" I would answer yes, he knew. I did the impossible because I always did. I gave up my single vacation in years, took on extra, and skipped weekends. I spent every spare penny on the wedding. I covered the cost of the catering. When Emma's mother forgot her checkbook, I assisted her with the venue deposit. Because the first garment made Emma fat, I even paid for the additional expense of her second dress. I grinned. When they shared a kiss, I applauded. What did I receive? I appreciate the money. However, nobody wants to see a janitor in the wedding pictures. That smirk, that phrase. He seemed proud of himself based on the glint in his eye, as if it were a mic drop. I woke up the following morning in my low-cost hotel room, the windows open to let in the sea air and California breeze. It ought to have been a sense of relief. Rather, I felt a knot of anger in my stomach. I went through my phone's contents. 47 calls were not returned. By 6 p.m., the messages had begun. Emma, where are you, Aiden, Alan? Did you call off the meal, dude? Tell me this is a misunderstanding, please, Mom. Do you realize how embarrassed we were, Emma? Early departures were made. Dad, Aiden, give me a call immediately. The icing on the cake. Alan, you went too far, bro. Nobody wants to see a janitor in the wedding pictures, as I mentioned. However, this is pitiful. I spent a lot of time looking at that message. Not even an apology? No, it wasn't my intention, just more teasing. My phone called once more that evening. I left it on voicemail, Mom. Then she phoned once more, though. And once more. I finally picked Aiden up. She said, "What's the matter with you? Hello, Mother. It's nice to hear from you as well." Emma's relatives are incensed. Everyone went home hungry after they spent all that money. Emma's relatives? I gave a sour laugh. You're referring to those who didn't spend any money and let me pay for the cake. The point isn't that. No, I responded bluntly. Your son is the point. You all laughed when your other kid made fun of me in front of everyone. Come on, please. She lost her temper. It was a joke. I fell silent. Do you truly find it amusing? I inquired. Do you find it amusing? I paid for Alan's wedding, canceled vacations, and declined increases in order to stay in town and assist you with the mortgage, only to be informed I wasn't photo-worthy. At that moment, the line went silent. Indeed, Aiden, you do wear that uniform everywhere. Perhaps if you put forth more effort. That was it. That was the time. The click. I ended the call. Dad called a few hours later. What were you contemplating? He lost his temper. People were phoning us. Nothing to eat was available. Emma sobbed in the restroom. I kept silent. Son, are you listening? Dad? Calmly, I said. May I ask you a question? What? Who covered Alan's last tuition after he left school? Did you? I'm irritated, he said. However, he didn't require a new transmission at that time because his automobile broke down. Who assisted him in purchasing a second-hand one? You did. 3 winters ago, when the heating was going to be turned off, you and your mother were behind on the home. A pause occurred. Then he gave a groan. What are you trying to say? Slowly, the first stated my point. I have never failed to show up. Not once. Has anyone expressed gratitude to me without a subsequent guilt trip? You all now act as though I owe you my humiliation and my silence. You're exaggerating. No, Father, I'm being finished. I didn't stop by Alan's house to make amends later that week, not even to quarrel. All I wanted to do was deliver the receipts. Without a shirt, he opened the door. I'm holding a beer. He scratched his head and said, Oh, the ghost reappears. I gave him a folder made of manila. What is this? All the receipts for the wedding, I said. Catering, rentals, deposits, tips. You and Emma might want to actually pay people this time, he snorted, trying to prove you're the hero again. I just stared at him. You think you're better than me? He said. But all you do is mop floors and hold grudges. No, I said, I think I've been a fool. A janitor who believed love could be bought. Who thought family meant something? Alan smirked. Guess you finally figured it out. I gave a nod. Yeah, and I hope you enjoy living with the consequences. 3 days after the wedding, quiet. No calls, no texts, no apology. Just complete cold nothingness. Then a letter arrived. White envelope, my name and delicate handwriting. Inside was a typed message from Emma. Dear Aiden, we hope you understand what your actions cost us. My parents were humiliated. Alan is heartbroken. We're asking you to do the right thing and reimburse the expenses we had to cover after the catering cancellation. Enclosed is an invoice. We expect a transfer by Friday. Family means duty. The invoice. $2,400 for emergency pizza delivery, an additional generator, and my fave emotional anguish, $500 for her tears. I gazed at the letter, then casually fed it through my blender. Let the confetti pour. The next morning, Mom texted Mom. Family supper Saturday. You're coming. We need to discuss. At first, I wasn't going to go, but then I thought, nah, forget that. I will go and I'll bring everything. Saturday night, 6 p.m. I strolled in with a rucksack over my shoulder, inside my laptop and a USB. My parents were ashamed. Alan is heartbroken. We kindly request that you compensate us for the costs we incurred following the cancellation of the catering. An invoice is enclosed. A move is anticipated by Friday. Family entails accountability. The bill, $2,400 for an additional generator and emergency pizza delivery. And the emotional discomfort I like best, $500 for her tears. I carefully put the letter through my blender after staring at it. Allow the confetti to fall. The next morning, Mom texted Mom. Saturday night family supper. You will arrive. We must speak. I wasn't planning to go at first, but then I changed my mind. I'll bring everything and I'll go. I arrived at 6 p.m. on Saturday with a bag slung over my shoulder, a USB stick with screenshots, receipts, and a video I had been recording. They were all seated already. Mom was holding tissues as if she were about to cry. Arms crossed, stern face, remarked Dad. Alan dressed up like he was delivering a TED lecture, and Emma simultaneously looked wounded and arrogant, assured, called Aiden. Mom said quietly, "Thank you for coming." "Don't be," I answered. "It will not take long." Emma bent over. "All of us are working to get over this, but you made us seem foolish. Do you get that? Our day was destroyed by you." I extended my hand. "It's your time now." "It's mine now." After setting my laptop down on the table, I turned it on. "What is this?" Dad inquired, already wary. "Evidence." I select a video from the rehearsal dinner and press play. While testing her camera, my buddy, a photographer, unintentionally took this picture. The microphone was turned on. Emma and her dad were standing with Alan, Emma's mother. "So the catering is being paid for by your brother," Alan chuckles. "Yes, the poor fellow believes it gives him a sense of belonging." Emma gave him permission. "He can only ever be a part of something respectable in this way." Alan, "Do not be concerned. Cleaning up after others is nothing new to him, literally." I put the video on hold. There was utter silence in the room. "Still amusing?" I inquired. No one responded. Mom appeared to be trying to vanish. Dad's face became white. Emma hurried to her feet. "That isn't contextualized, is it?" Alan's text conversations to a buddy were screenshotted when I opened another folder. "Alan? The catering is being covered by Aiden. Told him we had no money. The DJ is being covered by Emma's parents, but we're keeping the rest for ourselves. Free meals, please." I give Alan my whole attention. "You took advantage of me, lied to me, and then made fun of me." Now he stood too. "This family was deceived by you?" "No," I said. At last, I stopped pretending to be the fool who banged his fist against the table. "You are behaving like a kid." I looked over at him. "Be calm, concentrated." "No. I'm finally behaving like a man who isn't your fallback option." Emma's voice came out sharply. "Our wedding was ruined by you." "No," I said. I restored my respect to myself. Before I left, I grabbed my backpack. I stopped at the entrance. "By the way, I forwarded the video to all of the attendees at your wedding, including Alan, your boss." He tensed. "Do you recall how you made fun of janitors for being beneath you? Let's see how the HR division handles that." Emma let out a gasp. "You didn't." "Yes, I did. After that, I left. Not out of rage, in liberty." Behind me. For the first time in years, I felt nothing at all when I heard Emma start crying. The family disintegrates, and a surprising newcomer enters the picture. After leaving that dinner, I didn't take a car home. For the first time in my life, I pulled up to the shore, parked, sat on the hood, and simply gazed out at the ocean. The only person I felt accountable to was myself. I had nothing to offer the waves. They simply were. I could have remained there indefinitely until the phone exploded. There were 27 missed calls. There were 9 voicemails. Emma's mother called me a classless disgrace in a text message. Dad's one. "You have caused us irreparable embarrassment." The real kicker, though, "I think you're dead, Alan. This is something you'll regret." I read it 3 times. Grinning, I erased it. Don't be angry. Only relief. What I didn't expect was the public reaction. Apparently, someone at the wedding caught the tail end of my speech on video, uploaded it to TikTok. The audio of me saying I gave myself back my dignity was already trending by day 3. This is the most satisfying real-life moment I've ever seen. Dude's a janitor, but just mopped the whole family. Even BuzzFeed DM'd me asking for the full story. I ignored it all. I didn't need validation, but wow, it felt good. On Thursday, it got quiet, and that's when Sophie texted me. Sophie? My ex. We dated for 2 years back when I was still trying to earn my family's approval. She left because she couldn't watch me get walked over anymore. Sophie, I saw the video. I've never been prouder of you. I always knew there was fire in you. That just buried it. We met for coffee 2 days later. No expectations, no awkward tension. Just two people who had endured the same storm and eventually stepped into the sun. I left because I couldn't bear how they treated you, she remarked gently, swirling her drink. I kept hoping you'd see it for yourself. I saw, I said finally. She grinned. So now what? I don't know, I said. But for the first time, it'll be my decision. Back home, things were burning. Emma left. 3 days after the video went viral, Alan abandoned him. Her parents reportedly warned her that she was a shame to their family. Alan sent me a 2-word note, "You prevail." I didn't respond. Then the unexpected surprise arrived. My cousin Kelly got in touch. Kelly, I've also finished them. I was inspired by you. The lease for my own apartment was just signed. At family get-togethers, she had always been the reserved one. Never stops observing. As it happens, she was observing everything. My mother arrived at my flat on Sunday. I refused to allow her in. All I want to do is chat. Through the screen door, she spoke. Talk then. Her voice faltered. Aiden, you destroyed the family. No, long before I stopped trying to mend the family, I said that it was broken. She was about to argue but refrained. Rather, she muttered, Your dad isn't talking to anybody. Alan is still at home. No longer my burden. You made that plain, I said. Really, you won't assist us? She inquired. Not right now? No. Her gaze. I don't even recognize you. Really? At last, I grinned and closed the door. I checked my email the next day. Sophie had left a message. In 3 weeks, I'll be heading to Costa Rica. You claim to have always wanted to travel. Do you still wish to? Before tightening, I gazed at the screen. Reserved. 2 days later, I set off on a quick journey. Not Costa Rica first, just a peaceful weekend by myself. The evening before my departure, I was drinking whiskey while standing on my balcony. My social media was still inundated with messages. Individuals narrating their personal experiences. Thank you for expressing what they were unable to. My intention was not to set an example. I just got up. 9:12 p.m. The former closest buddy of Brian Allen sent another note. I'm proud of you, dude. You were always treated like garbage by him. You got out clear even though you destroyed everything. I grinned. It was finally over, not because of the adulation. I spoke to the sky as I peered out over the city lights. I appreciate the wedding pictures. I raised a drink to the night after that. Heir to liberty, the reality of saying no at last. For you to feel the warmth at last, some bridges must burn. After 2 months, Costa Rican evening warm. As I laid in a hammock with a book I hadn't read in years, the ocean wind caressed my skin. It had a salty mango tree scent. There are no ringing phones, no guilt like a noose around my neck. I had freedom. But you know what caught me off guard the most? They weren't missed by me. Not by any means. Growing up in a home like mine teaches you to feel a certain way. Above everything, duty. They inform you. Family is the most important thing. Blood is something you don't ignore. The elder one is you. It's your responsibility. However, they never discuss respect. Mutual effort was never addressed. Never acknowledged that unrestrained love is only control. Wearing a card with their hallmarks. For years, I believed I was doing the right thing. Mending and paying. Bending. Shrinking. For what purpose? To be assigned to my brother's wedding as the janitor? To be asked to pay for dessert after being removed from pictures? No, not anymore. It went viral a week after the wedding. Strangers sent me texts. People said that I motivated them and that I was bold. That they eventually distanced themselves from their own poisonous parents, siblings, and even partners. One message was particularly clear. I was once called useless by my brother. I was taking care of my niece and paying his rent. For the first time, your narrative made me turn away. I think I'm breathing. I could relate to that sensation. Thus, it made me feel something. And I realized I didn't just reclaim my life. I allowed folks to bring theirs to Alan. Still no job. I also never returned. When I last heard from her, she was attempting to wed into an affluent family that her father had met via golf. I wish you luck in your endeavor, parents. They sent a family friend to intervene as a final ploy. Like some peace messenger, a man I hadn't seen since high school appeared at my door. He answered, "You've got your point. Now I understand. Perhaps it's time to return home." I didn't respond. I simply grabbed my phone, pulled out the wedding picture, the one with the champagne glass and Alan laughing. Additionally, I'm zoomed in and placed slightly out of frame in the corner. I responded, "They didn't just crop the photo. I was clipped by them." There he stood, nothing to say. He nodded and walked away. I remained close to Sophie, but we didn't reconcile. Scars bind us together, the same form. She once traveled to Costa Rica to see me. We conversed till dawn while sipping rum on the beach. She remarked with a smile as she walked away, "I left you behind, and you've changed. This is a positive thing." She was correct. I completed a task that I had been putting off for years a few weeks ago. I purchased a whiteboard from a nearby office supply store and scribbled a single phrase in large black characters over the top, with borders beneath. I mentioned 10 names of folks I had been attempting to win over for years. I put a column next to each name, showed me respect, took advantage of me. My name was one of the 2 names that received a checkmark. Now, when people inquire as to whether I regret my actions, revealing the truth and canceling the catering, use a flamethrower to destroy every bridge, I chuckle since it wasn't relatives that I lost. It was a delusion. I wasn't loved by them. I was able to help them, and they enjoyed it. They cherished the quiet and compliance. Indeed, naturally, each time I unlocked my wallet, they extended their hands, but then I got up. When I declined, they became strangers. Perhaps they were always. Retaliation is a fantasy for some individuals. I had a dream about peaceful mornings, coffee without fear in my belly. I have friends that text me just for fun, not because they are in need of anything. I had a dream about waking up free of the burden of being someone else's emotional trash can. I have that now, and I will never again give it up. Alan sent me his final note on my birthday. "I hope you're content. You were necessary to us," I eventually said, grinning. "I needed me too. That's the distinction. This concludes the narrative. Freedom. Not a picture-perfect family, not a cozy reunion over pie and forgiveness. You can't call it family if you treat me like furniture," one guy replied, finally looking his blood in the face. After then, he walked away without turning around. If you're seeking for a lesson, here it is. Call you cheap when you're spending your money if they make fun of your hardship. To cancel the catering, make fun of your work, your attire, and your heart. Book a flight after letting them experience what it's like to be hungry just once. To finally choose yourself, raise a glass and toast. An extra chapter. It was me who called off the catering for my brother's wedding. You may ask me anything. My brother told a gathering 2 months ago. I appreciate the cash, but nobody wants to see a janitor in the wedding pictures. I covered the cost of the catering. I canceled the entire order that evening, while humiliation and cold pizza were being provided. I was in Costa Rica, drinking wine on a terrace. At the moment, I remained silent. I simply turned to go. I'm now responding to the inquiries that people are making. Do I feel bad about it? No, I'm sorry I was silent for so long. Not for putting a line at last. Has Alan ever shown regret? No. You win, was his final message. I didn't respond. Was he abandoned by Emma? Indeed. 3 days following the nuptials. Were you supported by your parents? They made an effort to coerce me into reestablishing the family. I physically and emotionally shut the door in their face. Do you still work as a janitor? Yes, and I'm pleased about it. I don't simply clean floors, I clean messes. What were the responses? Good. I was thanked by thousands of strangers. Some people cut out poisonous family members. A female sent a message. You authorized me to resign from my position as the family bank. No. I was referred to as uncaring by others. Claimed that I spoiled a wedding. Not for a second. Someone once told me, you'll regret it when your parents are gone. I don't. I've finished speaking. I've moved on. However, one question remains. Who do you become at the end of a lifetime of tidying up after others? I'm still trying to figure that out, and I'm all right with not knowing for the first time in my life.